So yes, it's a fact that our task in procurement is to negotiate and negotiate hard. Okay. So one of the things I always say that we've heard n number of times create win-win situations, and that is true all the time. Okay. So if you believe that just because you are in a position of power, you will create win-lose situation, that doesn't work. Okay.
Hmm.
So number one is yes, you maintain cordiality, maintain respect. So tough negotiation doesn't mean you become rude. Okay, I've seen that very often when people have that position. So that equanimity is important. The other thing that is important is that suppliers are okay with negotiations, but
Welcome to another episode of Value Seller Talks with Deepak Bajaj, where we meet the visionaries who transform industries through innovation, integrity, and creating an impact. Our guest today is Vijay Sati, a strategic procurement and supply chain leader with over 3 decades of global experience driving operational excellence and organizational transformation. It's a very crucial which Vijay is handling during his tenure. He has been a key leadership team member across reputed organizations, exactly managing strategic deals, profitability, and cost optimization. He is widely respected for leading end-to-end supply chain transformation, building fully integrated SCM functions, and established best-in-class global procurement practices, including S&OP, category management, and e-sourcing. Vijay's multi-industry background covers FMCG, consumer durables, IT services, telecom, and the food and process industry. All these industries are closer to the customers, so you can understand what the pressure he is handling when dealing with such type of organization and various vendor ecosystem. He is a recognized industry voice. Vijay has been chairperson of IQPC, which is Procure to Pay conference at Mumbai, a guest faculty at Management Studies, and an expert panelist at CPO conferences. Today, we will explore his incredible journey, his principle of leadership, his perspective on the future of global sourcing and supply chain innovation. Welcome, Vijay Sati, to Value Seller Talks.
thank you, Deepak. Thank you for the introduction.
Vijay, your credentials, your achievements is very vast. But before we go and discuss more onto that, we would like to understand who is Vijay Sati as a person.
Well, I think so. I'm a very exciting person, a person who believes in keeping it simple. Okay, whether it is my job or it's life, I keep it simple. Okay, I believe there's already a lot of stress in life, so keep it simple and be happy. And I think so. The best output comes when you're happy, stress free. So that's the way I am. Okay, I believe in fitness. I still play sports with young 18, 20-year olds. Okay, and that's my passion. Okay, and that will always remain. And I like adventurous situations, new adventures, new challenges, and that will always remain, no matter how old I become.
It's a very important message which you have given. Keep it simple. Now, today everyone is becoming so complicated, or it pretends to be so complicated. But keep it simple mantra is a real value of life. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. But if I look at your job profile, the domain which you are in, and you are leader into that, which is sourcing and procurement, supply chain management. This is very complicated. So how you first describe how you enter into this domain and the real challenges which you have faced during your tenure.
So this is a very interesting story. Okay. So I was, I started my career doing structural design. I used to work with a lot of consultants. I was in a company called DLF, where we used to work with consultants, external agencies, used to negotiate with them, also coordinate with them. So while in DLF, a company called Whirlpool, you must have heard about
Yep,
it. It's a,
yep.
US MNC in the consumer durable space. So they were looking for someone who could drive, transformation in their factory. So they had a factory in Faridabad, okay, and they had just taken it over from Kelvinator, and they were looking for someone who could drive that transformation project. So, typical of me, I picked up that role, okay, highly challenging because it was a huge plant, 37-acre plant with
Mm,
almost about 6,000 unionized workers, okay. And this project was supposed to be delivered while the plant was running, three
mm,
shifts. Okay, so 24 by 7 plant, and you have to deliver that project. And those unionized workers were, hell bent on creating problems all the time. So anytime you're running a project, they'll create some problem, or they might not let you work. So I drove, that project to completion and completely transformed the plant infrastructure. So was highly appreciated by the management, the way, I transformed it with a completely, single focus kind of a thing at a cost which was, very, very optimal, critical for the company. So I was offered a role of my choice. And this was way back in 1998, 1999.
oh,
And the same company was struggling with some of the supply chain issues. Okay.
mm,
So they offered me this role of heading the supply chain in the plant. And I picked it up. And that's where my transformation journey started. Very, very complicated situation, but, I picked up, I always like doing new things. I picked up, how to work on SAP, and I
mm,
was one of the masters of that area. So I learned how to control, the supply chain through technology. Delivered a lot of initiatives, just-in-time delivery, direct online delivery. So it was something that I picked up in Whirlpool, and that became my trademark style. It became I got labeled as a transformation leader, and my next few roles in the various companies I joined were all around setting up new organizations, new procurement organizations, new processes, and all those things. But all started with Whirlpool.
mm. Interesting. And when you're saying 1998, 1999, at the
Mm.
time the technology was the adoption of technologies was very much limited. Right? I
It
still
just
remember.
started. It just started, but SAP even at that time had quite a few functionalities.
Mm,
And maybe we can talk about technology a bit later in this
mm,
section. But yes, I really enjoyed working on SAP, and seeing how a tool could, really be used to manage supply chains.
right. And you mentioned about the people are not allowing to do the work smoothly or effectively. They create a problem. What type of problem generally they create?
So I don't know if you've ever been with unionized workers. So they sort of say that we are the owners of the company.
Mm,
Okay. And Whirlpool at that time, the market was down. There were cost pressures, and somehow, they used to create situations like you're spending money of the company when, the company is going through a bad time. And generally, there are, people who will be a bit rogue. There'll be union leaders who would, want to create some problems. So it is a typical style in a unionized environment, I would say. So they would disrupt work that, here workers are working, the quality will go bad, so you should not work here.
mm,
Those kind of situations keep coming, So it was, troubling contractors. At times they trouble contractors for other reasons also. So there were situations created all the time, and I had to deal with them. And dealing with union leaders needs a lot of patience, because one wrong words uttered, and you might have a plant disruption.
mm,
So very complicated situation. It was, I would say the infrastructure was a mess, and how we changed it. And I keep saying, if I stay in a city like Gurgaon,
mm,
that philosophy you start putting in here, you'll suddenly realize that things can go better. So there used to be, 37 acres. There were pockets of scrap yards all around. So we decided, wherever those places are not required for scrap, we said we'll grow grass there. So we created greenery there instead of a scrapyard. You know, we
Hmm.
demolished structures which were not required.
Hmm.
And typical cleanup of a huge facility.
So it definitely when you grow grasses, so it's basically a mental shift, right? So the environment and the positivity that is also required to settle such type of a mob, so that they become a constructive and become a contributor rather than a disruptor. So I
Yeah,
think the mindset game which has to be played
yeah,
effectively.
mindset change and important. Yes, you have to have the top leadership with you, and
Yeah.
I must say that I had leaders who backed me completely. In terms of whatever I was doing, I had their full backing. Although before I got that backing, I had to go through a real test of very very smart leaders. So they tested me as a professional, as an individual, and then they realized that yes, this guy means business and let him do what he wants.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that philosophy is still there. You have to prove yourself first, then
Yeah.
you will get all the required support.
Um,
As a leader of the procurement and the supply chain, so you are dealing with vendors all the time, right? And it is very pressure it's movement for everyone in your team, because of very cost sensitive market. So how you deal with this situation, and importantly, how you maintain a trust and collaboration with such vendors and the partners.
so yes, it's a fact that our task in procurement is to negotiate and negotiate hard. Okay. So one of the things I always say that we've heard n number of times create win-win situations, and that is true all the time. Okay, so if you believe that just because you are in a position power, you will create win-lose situation, that doesn't work. Okay,
Hmm.
so number one is yes, you maintain cordiality, maintain respect. So tough negotiation doesn't mean you become rude. Okay, I've seen that very often when people have that position. So that equanimity is important. The other thing that is important is that suppliers are okay with negotiations, but provided they can get something out of it. So there are times when I've offered them additional business, offered them references. Okay, and besides the tough environment in which we work during negotiations, I sincerely believe that there has to be a personal angle with these suppliers. You could talk about maybe a golf, you could talk about travel, you could talk about family. So there are a lot of things that can happen. You can just go for a cup of tea with them. Okay, that ensures that there is the relationship built. So personally, my reputation has always been that yes, this guy has been a tough negotiator, but he was fair. So
Hmm.
once the supplier believes that there is fairness, okay, they will give it to you. They say, okay, this has been fair. Maybe in the long run, I will still win. So
Hmm.
that's my approach, and that's the approach I advise to anyone else in procurement.
I totally understand because yes, being in a business, you have to go into the negotiation and very hard negotiations,
Yeah,
and yeah, and sometimes are always the chances that the professional things turns into the personal thing as well.
yeah.
Yeah, so we always say we make good friends. Sometimes we also make a bad friends also. Especially this thing. So, uh, from a vendor perspective, you know cost is always be a important thing because whatever the vendor is submitting, it's not getting accepted. So how what is the balance you are making or you have make or you want to advise to others that create a real win-win situation for your organization as well as for the vendor also to survive.
So number one is one has to know. So as a negotiator, I always say that many of us today, and especially not in manufacturing but in the services industry,
Hmm.
I have seen so many of the procurement people who negotiate our mom and pop style. About
Hmm.
going to a sabzi market and saying "बहुत महंगा है और सस्ता करो."
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and I have
typical.
seen very very experienced people negotiating that way. I'll share some of my experience in HCL when, I had this gentleman who with many years of experience, 20 years of experience, negotiating this way with large IT companies. Okay. Very expensive. I need a bigger discount. I need a smaller discount. So number one is, as a good procurement person, you need to have a basic idea about the supplier's profitability. Okay. So if you do not have that idea, obviously you can lead to a situation that might become, relationship breaking. So once you have a decent idea, there are various ways of doing it. There are people who do should cost. There are people who might look at a company's, profit and loss statement to understand the kind of margins that are existing. People could benchmark, could do a lot of things. Okay, so I always, I'm not talking about the entire strategic sourcing bit, but there are various ways of doing it. So if you are aware of the approximate profitability of a supplier, you will never come to a point where that you are bleeding the supplier. So as long as you're not beating him and you're being respectful and dignified in negotiations, I'm sure things will work out, and things work out very nicely. And you'll have the supplier commitment to the organizations, because a lot of time supplier might give in because one is desperate for business, and you have that industry power. But in the long run, they're not with you. Their heart is not with you. Okay,
Yeah,
which is not a good thing to happen. So
true.
know where you are cornering him. Know how much it could be a rational profit to a supplier, and if you take away something, as I said, create win-win situation. Take away something, give back something else also. Okay. I have gone to the extent of giving references in a different industry through a friend. I said, okay, here I'm not able to give you enough margins, but I have a friend who might give you business. You can go there, take my reference, and you can get good business there. There are various ways of supporting each other. It's all about collaboration.
Important, yeah. Very important part, collaboration, because if their heart is not with you, definitely they are going to show you the back and whenever they get their own time. Uh,
Yeah,
I totally. But I want to still stick on this thing, because in our community, most of the people are from the sales, from from a CTO team, as well as from the procurement. And the one important point, as a leader, when you shortlist and qualify any vendor, right? What qualities you look other than just price submission?
so price comes quite late in the picture. Okay,
Mm,
I always say that. Number one thing is that once you understand the business requirement, it comes from a business requirement. So procurement is the role of procurement is to understand the business requirement. Okay, and once you have a complete understanding of the requirement, then you start going to the market to understand who could be the right partners to support us in this requirement. Okay, so product, you have a set of suppliers you would have. For services also, you'll have a set of suppliers. Okay, so initially there is no price involved. Okay,
mm,
it's all about who could
deliver.
suffice in terms of matching the requirements, and then
Mm,
comes the negotiation bit. So in negotiation, I always say that it's a good old technique of having more competition. Okay, doesn't always work, but one should have that. So the more the merrier. So I personally believe that you should have enough competition. Okay, once you're aware, as I said earlier, once you're aware of the profitability, the more the competition, the better prices we get. But
mm,
yes, there's a part called quality. So I have people and suppliers who come to me, saying, okay, I'll reduce this and then I'll give you this price. So
mm,
that is not negotiations, right? Because you are either reducing the quality of the product or the service, and then giving you a discount. So that is not negotiations. Okay. But yes, what could be a good negotiation is that if you can play within agreed tolerances. In product, there are tolerances. And again, in terms of services, it could be in tolerances in the service output. Okay. But there
mm,
are times when suppliers collaborate to give alternate solutions. Okay. They give, value engineering solutions. At that time, you also decide to share, the benefit that is there. Okay. So supplier might say that I've given you a discount of 10% on account of a suggestion I gave you on value engineering. So you take the 5% discount, and 5% should be my reward for giving you that suggestion, which you're not aware of. So I think so manufacturing teaches you a lot in terms of, how you collaborate with suppliers. I've gone through, I remember we used to have these supplier meetings when we used to rip apart a refrigerator and look at brainstorming sessions with suppliers and suppliers people, and very interesting. So
Mm.
you cannot compromise on quality in any case. Okay, but yes, you still have to reach the objective, collaborate with the right suppliers and with the right mindset.
Mm. One part of the procurement is to handle the outside world, which is vendor ecosystem. Another one is handling the internal management, which is more challenging sometimes and having a more pressure because they generally ask a lot of things. So very important message I want to learn from you and want to spread to the people who are facing such type of issues, that how you balance that internal pressure and how and what internal pressure looks like. You know, there may be a certain situation where the things has really boiled up to a level.
So very, very good question. Okay, and you're perfectly right when you say that internal challenges are much bigger. Okay, because suppliers, obviously are looking for business. They're happy to, play one step lower than you. But if you
Mm,
see the internal stakeholders, they have their demands, they have their questions, and if I talk about indirect procurement,
mm,
that is where you have the biggest challenges with internal stakeholders. I did that in Ericsson. So it's all about number one, the rapport that you built. So you be very sure you cannot work in cross purposes. Okay. So you have to build that rapport. You have to understand the other perspective. Okay. And let me tell you that I have not had a perfect world in this. There were times, initial times in my transformational journey where I tried to use those hard-hitting methods and ways, but never worked. Okay. So
mm,
what works is building that equation. So as I said, with suppliers also, you have to build that equation on a personal front. Okay. So there has to be a balance worked out. So at times, I remember when I was in that initial rugged phase when I used to tell, listen, you have a requirement, we will find the right guy for you. So
mm,
do not have to bother about the supplier. But I learned that very soon that it doesn't work that way. So you have to keep a balance. So our objective versus their objectives. Okay. So once they reach a point of confluence, you will realize that things work very smoothly. Okay. And it is important that you have to build both relationships. And that is the reason I always say that when I select my team, those people are very, very strong in people skills, stakeholder management. Stakeholders can be internal, external, global. So you have to have that. And that's become a very, very key skill for procurement people today.
mm. People management, people skill,
Yeah,
and empathy. Yeah, you are always using the word empathy and the understanding the other perspective.
yeah.
So, when I say empathy, uh, when you look from a vendor perspective or from the internal stakeholder perspective, definitely you are gelling with them. But the exact demand versus what you are getting, there's always be a difference, right? That
Can you
because
come again on this? Maybe I didn't get you.
I'm saying when you talk about the empathy, right? So empathy means understanding the other situation, whether it's our internal management or the external vendor part. There's
Mhm.
always be a there'll always be a difference between what has been demanded versus what has been actually achieved on the ground. So
Right.
that conflict and that challenges, it's really sometimes hard to materialize because
Mhm.
we in the industry which you have worked into, they are the consumer focused and most over they are saturated market. So any example which you want to share with us, that how you deal with this situation and how you come out?
So if I get you right, you're talking about a demand by the stakeholder
Yes.
versus what we deliver to them.
what we deliver to them, what is actually available on the ground from the vendors.
So I'll give you about the latest situation in a company like Nokia where we work. So typically our supply chain was of team crews. When we roll out networks. So the stakeholders obviously say demanded normally if the requirement is 100, they would demand 120 without telling us that. Okay.
Yeah.
So as I said earlier, again the same situation. If you are having the right rapport and relationship and understanding of each other, the noise will be less.
Much less. Correct.
So if you do not have that rapport, you will have so much of noise that it will be difficult to control. So again, repeating, build that rapport, build that understanding, let the stakeholder believe that yes, we understand their pain, and they will also in turn ensure that uh, they don't unnecessarily create those noises which become very disruptive at times.
So it's a very important message again. Thank you, Vijay, for bringing again this thing, because most of the people, as you mentioned, miss that rapport building. Either they create a rapport internally and they become a little bit rude, but it's important to balance the equation. And the people who are in the procurement and the sourcing team is a very important message. And also for the from the sales team also, they should also understand that how this whole economy works, so that they can also create a win-win situation for their end customers.
Yeah, I am. In fact, one of my future goals is to work with salespeople, because I have seen salespeople across industries, all kinds of salespeople, and really want to guide them in terms of how to handle, the procurement people in the right way. So many of them, in their own ways, tend to put off procurement people, and then it's a very uphill task to get what you want. Okay, so I have met all kinds of salespeople. And one of the statements I make when I find some smart salesperson, I say, "Tum badmash ho." It was not in the wrong sense, but really appreciating that you know how to get your way through.
Nice. It's a compliment for them, right?
Yeah.
No, very true, very true. But yes, I'm pretty much sure this cross knowledge transfer of of a sales, procurement, and other engineering is very much needed, because nowadays one person is having multiple caps, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I take up 3 years back, when the COVID hits, right? And then there's some tension arises, especially from the demand and from a supply perspective, as well as nowadays we know about the geopolitical uncertainty, which has, which has been the topic of discussion. So, how did you plan and mitigate the risk during these two situations?
So COVID was unprecedented. Never happened. Something that never happened earlier. Most of us were not privy to that. But it taught us a lot. Okay. And let me tell you that, the old fashioned diversifying your risks. If you see a share portfolio, today's situation is what? You invest globally, okay, in global shares, you invest in Indian companies. But the clear advice is diversify your, risks. Your portfolio should be sufficiently diversified. And that is true for any supply chain. So, people tend to forget, these situations that might suddenly come up. But at least COVID ensured that people now are very much aware of these risks involved and what can come up. Okay, COVID, and then all the turmoil that is happening globally right now.
Yeah.
And clearly, today's supply chains are global. So as we said, you have to have a globally diversified supply chain. If you are buying locally in India, diversify it regionally. You could diversify it in terms of financial strength of companies. But the only thing that works is that you have, right diversity in your supply chain. Yes, to take care of, short disruptions, you have to decide on certain safety stocks. Please ensure that, you are maintaining certain stocks that would help you, sail through during a disruption. Okay. So it's not rocket science, but yes, these strategic sourcing people have to spend a lot of time in scenario analysis. Okay. And with all the tools coming up these days, it's not very difficult. Okay. Although you'll still have to use your own experience, but build scenarios and build all kinds of scenarios and try to understand, what can happen and what are your lead times, what are your lead time changes, all those kind of things. And I'm sure, things will be much better. And people were, taken by surprise, with something like COVID happened. And then, you've seen the current US-China kind of a situation where each one is pushing each other. But once you diversify, you understand what is your total requirement, and what what if China stops? Who are the others who can supply? What is the alternate supply chain? So those things are important. I keep saying, and I remember when I joined Nokia. So let me tell you, this was, although I'd worked in Ericsson before, but that was more around the indirect side.
Mm.
The first time I handled network-related supply chains. Okay. And when I joined the company, typical one of the core strategies of procurement is, and very standard strategy, that supplier consolidation. We should have lesser suppliers so that we have spent with few suppliers and we manage them well. When I understood the industry, I realized that it's highly risky to work with few suppliers, because industry doesn't work on any kind of a demand planning forecasting system.
Mm.
There's sudden plans that come up, and then you have to just fulfill the rollout. So I completely reversed the entire supply chain. I said we'll have multiple suppliers.
Yeah.
From 10 we went to 60, 70 suppliers. Okay. And when the critical 5G rollouts happened, the global Vodafone Idea consolidation happened, we sailed through because of this reason. So one has to understand, that procurement strategies are not standard. Okay, you have to align to understand the business, align to the business requirement, and then deliver.
Mm. Yeah, important part. Yes, you rightly mentioned that there's no demand forecasting, and
Yeah,
for that it is very risky situation, because if only working with few people, few suppliers, it will create a lot of risk. We call it always, all the eggs in the same basket, right? And every supplier has their own limitation. And when Pan India rollout happened, then definitely you need more muscles and more head and foot on the ground.
yeah. So when we talk about supply chains, the agility of supply chain is very often talked about,
Hmm.
and telecom needs supreme agility, and that could only be achieved through a big supply base. In demand, and you need to turn around that demand immediately. So have a bigger supply chain, and your agility is as good.
Right. And I'm pretty much sure the pressure which you will be getting first to increase the supply chain, and then
Yeah.
bringing the people on the board, it's also is not an easy task.
Not an
Uh,
easy task.
The qualification, and then the due diligence and everything, along with the capability. Yeah. So
Exactly.
that has pretty much kept you busy, right? During
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
Mm. And as you come from a manufacturing industry, now you are in the telecom part, which is both are the consumer based, right? But from a different perspective. So, what is your experience with the telecom? Because I also come from a telecom, and our audience are more from a telecom side. So, how you see as a neutral person, that how this is the industry work, and how it is different from in tele manufacturing, the work which you have worked before.
So as I said, extremely unstructured. Okay.
Mm.
So you have the operators, who obviously there are huge capexes involved. So they have their own processes of getting those capexes approved and all. So, I'm sure there is some reason why, demand planning and forecasting doesn't work very well with those companies. But as soon as they get their budget approvals, and then they want to roll it out as of yesterday,
As of
right?
yesterday.
Versus, over the years, the cost pressures have become so much, right? That the profitability for the suppliers in this industry has become very low. So what is happening is that there is a very the structured big suppliers are unable to survive in this kind of a cost situation. So you
Mm.
are working with very small suppliers. Okay.
Mm.
Also, it's an unstructured industry. Suppliers also do not have the financial strength to keep their resources on bench. So it's all about the rollout coming up, so they run around to pick up resources wherever they are, whoever they are. So very low quality, low cost, resources are what they get. So
Mm,
getting them to perform critical technology tasks is not easy. So that's where our project teams are doing a great job to ensure that they're able to get the right output from these kind of suppliers. But yes, it's a very tight industry. Okay, unstructured to say the least. Okay, and then they work under conditions which are prone to accidents. So
mm,
you still have to have the due diligence to keep the safety processes there, because most of the companies that are there in this domain are large corporates which have their own norms in terms of ESG and all. So getting these small suppliers to comply to all kinds of requirements is not easy. So
mm,
that puts additional pressure both on the delivery team and the procurement team and the supply chain team. And I think I'm sure if we look at it globally, we still do a fantastic job. Globally, I remember 5G was such that people could not believe that the kind of numbers that we've delivered. Okay,
mm.
that we delivered through those kind of people. So we work much more efficiently compared to any country anywhere in the world.
Right. And the network are still, running, they are performing. We can see the data increase growing up. So, and the quality which has been mandated by the regulators,
Yeah,
the telecom regulator is still there.
yeah.
Yeah, so the backbone so we understand, from where the backbone of this telecom is there. It's not on the engineering, it's about the whole ecosystem where the sourcing and procurement plays a very important and vital role. So
Yeah.
thank you for making the network live in the Indian context as well as the global context.
Thank you.
Right. When we talk about the networks, if I don't talk about the technology and AI, the discussion will be incomplete. So right now we all are talking about that digitization is happening. So is the digitization is happening in the procurement industry also?
Yeah, of course. So let me tell you, I attend conferences, and these days there are more sessions on AI ML rather than anything else. So
Mm,
there is more talk about AI and ML. And procurement is picking up, these topics, like the back of their hands. So technology has been always there, although it has been evolving. As I said, almost 20 plus years back when I was in Whirlpool, we had SAP. Okay. And I remember SAP, I used it to really control the supply chain. Okay. I'll share a few examples of, what used to work. But the core part about all this is, as I said, with the AI coming in a big way. It's not coming in a small way, it's coming in a big way. But how many of us are using it? So right now, I would say the trend is around people picking up AI. We have partners who come up with various kind of AI tools, okay, to help more efficient procurement. But all these tools are useless if your data is not correct.
mm,
So I keep saying these are all analytics that come out of data. And if you do not work on cleansing your data, then they're as good as as nothing. So you're
nothing.
back to square one if you do not have the right data. Okay, and
Right.
data is created through various P2P processes, procure to pay processes. So all those processes have to be working in a very well-oiled manner to ensure that every part of it is working, right from the people who are creating the purchase orders to the people who are giving approvals to the people who are creating GRs. So everything has to work in a well-oiled manner. Okay, then only all these tools are going to work. So I'm very happy that procurement leaders are picking this up as an important imperative. Okay, but and what I clearly see is that it's going to free up a lot of administrative time for the procurement people. Only one rider. I see a lot of youngsters thinking that their life is easy, so they waste time. I always tell them that listen, procurement is an extremely rich field. Okay, the more time you spend doing strategic work, the more time you spend understanding various things. Okay, you will not be a good procurement person. So utilize the time well is what I say. So AI will help you work on data, get AI tools wherever you believe there is repetitive work, not much of value add. You'll get those answers. Okay.
Mm.
So AI will help you reach a point, but after that also, maybe perhaps earlier you were spending, say, X amount of time or say 5X amount of time. After AI, you might spend just 1X time. Uh, but you'll still have to spend the time, energy, and your own inputs to get to a very clear solution to a problem. Okay.
Mm.
So utilize the time well, and it's technology is freeing up time, but utilize it well.
Mm.
I'll give you an example. When I talk about data, even during that time, that's 1999, 2000, I had, I wanted to use the automated purchase ordering for suppliers. And
Mm.
what was the bottleneck? The inventories were not correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So I ensured that, listen, let's work on the inventory. Okay. So I used to stop a transaction. I said, listen, this inventory doesn't look good. Let's correct the inventory and then place the order. We might do a manual intervention initially, but over time, the inventory will get corrected because you're aware of the fact that certain things need to be cleansed up. Okay.
Right.
So that single point focus has to be there if we really want to, use these technologies. They're wonderful technologies, but it has to be worked upon. You have to work hard to ensure that you make, good use of it.
No, very important point. Like you said, inventory. Inventory is the data, right? So if the data is not correct, then whatever the system which you are building on top of that is going to give a wrong results, right?
Exactly.
And the losses are more high rather than the benefit which you have derived for.
Exactly.
I love that fact that the 5x time which you were spending earlier now reduced to 1x. So what happened to the next 4x which has been left out? Utilize this time to
This
sell
is
off.
just a thumb rule kind of a thing I
Mhm.
mentioned. What I'm saying is that we get much more efficient. So, and what I'm saying is that time that you are saving.
Yeah.
So you can do two things. You can either while away time, okay, saying that, okay, I have my life is easier now. Okay. Other is, you spend time on so many areas in procurement and strategic sourcing where you can add value.
Yes.
So please spend time there, building your skills, building your own competence, and as I said, working on areas where data needs to be worked upon. Okay, processes need to be worked upon. Spend time on that.
Mm. Yeah. And just to add what you mentioned, that the 4x time which has been left out, speak with your peers, speak with your industry friends, talk about where they are going on, because you are building a system, maybe using the AI, but yes, whatever the input which you're getting is a real problem, and then solve it so that you
Yeah,
have become more and more creative. We always say, AI can replicate the repeated jobs, but creativity is really challenging right now for the AI. So be creative, and that's what every domain, every industry needs.
yeah. Because see, AI will give you answers, but your own intelligence, your own experience, your own capability will convert that answer to something really value added if you have that in you. Otherwise, you cannot take it up blindly. You still have to do a bit of your own analysis to come to a complete, thorough conclusion. Okay, and for
Mm.
that, you have to have capability.
True, exactly. That's a very important message for especially for the youngsters who are entering into this domain or any domain as of now. Just don't just rely that you are getting with the help of some GPTs, you are getting the answer. Your actual life start from that point.
Exactly,
Put your creativity, put your thought, put your mind, put your experience, talk, learn, and again retune these models again, which will give a lot of impact.
exactly.
Thank you for bringing, because this is also important for the. I will relate this thing with the startups also, with the entrepreneur which is coming in the market. So they are happy with building a one small product, but they miss that how this product can be related to the other segment of the whole puzzle, and that's the reason we are getting a lot of challenges of some of the startup are really struggling to grow after the one stage.
Exactly.
Mm. Especially your background from various industries, right? So whether it's of FMCG, telecom, IT, and other manufacturing industries. So how do you adapt your leadership style and strategies across these diverse sectors? It's a really challenging.
So good question. So as I said first, as a personality, for me, I have a reasonable set of qualifications, and I believe that someone like me, if I am not able to pick up challenges, then who's going to pick up? Okay.
Mm.
So number one is I always say that I love challenges. So that is my personality. Number two is I always say that supply chain procurement, the processes, skills are standard. You talk about negotiations, you talk about supplier management, you talk about contract management, you talk about processes and tools. They're all standard. Okay.
Mm.
What changes is the industry. Okay. So as I said, the leadership style more or less remains the same. So we all evolve. Every new organization you work in, you learn, you have some learnings, you evolve. Okay. So the style remains the same. You just have to adapt to the cultures in the different organizations, whether it's the same industry or a different industry. So as soon as you join a new company or a new industry, number one, you understand the culture of the organization. So you have to align your style to the culture. So if you do not do that, then obviously you're failing right at the beginning. Then comes the specific problem in your function. Okay. So tools, processes, skills are the same. What does someone like me do? I go there, I see, let's understand the industry first. Okay.
Mm.
And there are tools, there are strategic management tools like the Porter's Five Forces model, which will help you understand the industry well. So, so you see your company's competitors, whether there are new entrants coming up, there is the buying power of suppliers, buying power of buyers. Okay. So it's a very solid tool that is there. Okay. Then is all about understanding your own spend.
Mm.
Spend is money. Spend is not industry. It is money, right? So it doesn't change with industries. So you see the spend, then you see the suppliers and what industry they come from. Okay. So it is all a very, very practical approach to the whole thing. So as I said, I try to make things simple. I don't get bogged down by coming from FMCG to a chemicals company or from IT to to a foods company. It doesn't bug me down. Okay.
Mm.
So once you have done that, so industry analysis, your own spend analysis, your supplier base analysis, okay, and you have the entire picture in front of you, and then you start looking at the people who are handling it.
Mm.
So once I have understood the industry and the supply and supply base and the commodities or the products and services you're buying and the industry that come from, so you have to do a detailed analysis. Okay, that happens over say 2 to 3 months. Okay, and after that, I get to the people, and I have very very clear thoughts about people. I think that we could have another question on people specific. But, so I ensure, and luckily by the grace of God, and experience that I have the knack of identifying people early. Okay, so I ensure that the right people are put on the job. Okay, and after that, it is simple. It doesn't affect me at all. And my biggest successes have been in areas where I didn't have any prior experience. I
Mm.
talk about Nokia, my first experience in network rollout, two of the biggest, largest global rollouts. So initially was the Vodafone Idea consolidation. My manager in Nokia said, Vijay, I was very bothered because this was the globally biggest ever consolidation project, very complicated. We deliver it without an escalation. And then 5G, again, it was the largest global 5G rollout. Okay, we did that very, very successfully. So as I said, once you do the basics right, it is simple. Don't get bogged down to the industry. Supply chain and procurement processes are standard. Okay. The only thing that you need to understand is you have to have a good business understanding, industry understanding, good analytical skills, and then it's quite simple.
Mm. Yeah, we have experienced all these consolidation and the 5G rollouts, as well as obviously uh, the overall ecosystem has to be properly mapped, as you rightly mentioned, the detailed analysis and finding out, not into, again, you make it really very simple, right? Now I can also explain to someone that, as a newcomer, what should be done and what are the 4, 5 parameters which you have to look into, and yes, you are ready for the job. right? Obviously, experience will come eventually, but
Yeah.
as you mentioned about the people, right? I'd like to understand maybe two situations. One is that you are given an existing team. That's one thing, and the second one is you have to hire a new person, right? So how you are, and both the situations are different, right? Although they are people, that how you manage this thing, because this is very important for the people, for the entrepreneurs who are listening to us, and the business owners who also want to build their own teams, but they're struggling for.
This is a very, very good question. And one of the biggest challenges for me. So let me tell you one thing, my understanding. So whenever I join a company as a transformation agent, okay, you create insecurity. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, people believe that here comes a leader who is supposed to transform. So he's going to transform or change people. And that happens in with most individuals. One of the things that I have ensured in all my transformation journey, I was never reckless about taking people's jobs. Okay. So my first intent was to see, whether this person or this individual has got the right nuts and bolts. Okay, so I would always try to work with the team that's already there. So many of them have not been able to perform because perhaps they never got the right environment. Maybe they didn't get the right leaders. So I ensured that I try to work with the right guys. So what I typically do is I keep the same team, okay, give them my inputs, okay, but I certainly get one or two super guys whom I thoroughly test and get them in. They also set examples. Okay. So these people come in and they give you a way of working. So the people who have it in them to come up to that level, they survive. Others obviously have to somehow, fall through. The interesting part is that I would say that most of the companies that have done transformation, I would say 90 plus people held their roles or held their jobs, I would say. I did do some changes in terms of their roles, but they held their jobs and they performed reasonably well. So, to all leaders and upcoming leaders, let's understand the Indian situation where, obviously, the market is not so easy in terms of jobs. So, taking jobs is very easy, but to get people to work needs a bit of working on those individuals, but they perform. And I've had the experience of people performing. Some people with the wrong attitude obviously will have to fall through, but if you are having the right sincerity, the right intent, you will survive. And that's the way I work.
Important, yeah. I love this statement. Taking the job is very easy, but giving the direction is more complicated. And most of the leaders actually fail because they believe that, removing the old people and bring the new team is actually going to change the whole thing. But it doesn't work like, because in a cricket match also, or in any match, you need experience as well as the new aggressions also. And that's the balancing is the what the captain used to do.
Yeah.
Mm. Thank you for this thing, because yes, I have also experience, and I'm getting the such type of noises from across my friends who are facing the similar situation. So yeah, important message. This message for the leaders: believe in your team; they can do really wonders. The only what is missing is the right guidance, and you can be a right person to guide them and to explain them, because everyone is want to learn and everyone wants to grow.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. Oh, wow. I am no, I know is that this topic itself is an extensive topic, but in the interest of time, I just hold this question. Otherwise, there are so many questions which is coming in my mind only on this topic of this people management, and also how to identify the right people from the diverse team, and who will be the champions, or who will be the person whom we can do the delegation. But yes, I think I should stop myself, otherwise this discussion will go
Yeah,
for.
it's a long topic. Yeah.
It's a long topic, right? So, the one important part you mentioned is the collaboration, right? So, collaboration happening across, collaboration between your organization, the client, your organization with the vendors, and so on and so forth. So, how you explain this collaboration really works, and share some examples, where you think that this collaboration has helped for the can help you to succeed in this massive rollouts or the massive consolidation or in other sectors which you have worked for.
So, see, the interesting part is, I was, if I look at my company, Nokia, so I'm an ex-Ericsson also, and we were the two biggest competition. Okay.
Mm,
I had friends in Ericsson too who were managing rollouts. So, I don't think so anyone is an enemy. So each one of us is doing the same role, and working for the company. So, at times we feel that we are letting out some secrets. The fact is, when you work together, okay, ultimately you do gain a few things. So I used to have people calling me up, "Ki, what are you doing in these situations?" And I used to call in turn if required, and we used to share certain insights, not really sharing critical company information, but
yeah.
information that was helping each other in terms of how things are working. So
Mm,
that belief that there is something that everyone will gain from through collaboration is important. So when you collaborate, you are joining in forces, and the output can be shared by both. Okay, it's not
mm,
this that one wins, the other loses. So the same thing. The trend today is about organizations collaborating, or organizations pooling in their own volumes and then negotiating. That is happening. I remember years back, I was in a chemicals company where, there is one company which is alien to us. We used to buy furnace oil, okay, globally. And it was a commodity. So we had not so such large requirements, but they were, masters in that area. But they also wanted someone to collaborate to, bring in volumes. So they
mm,
came in with their knowledge. We had slightly lesser knowledge. Their knowledge of, of buying furnace oil globally, and we all gained. They gained
mm,
in terms of prices. We also gained because we didn't have that much of knowledge. We didn't have those volumes. So those kind of things keep happening. Okay. With suppliers also, it's the same situation. Okay, if you collaborate with them, they will come up with solutions. Okay, perhaps my company would not have thought about a solution which a supplier has. Suppliers, work with various diverse companies, so they even share information that, listen, you are doing a certain thing in this way, that other company is doing it in this way, which is much more efficient. So that
mm,
information is again collaboration, okay, and that information helps us. So this supplier engagement and knowledge sharing helps in each one of us gaining.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, and if we and the collaboration and the knowledge sharing is something which keeps everyone on the same boat, right? They also
Yeah.
think like you also think like them, and then that's what you mentioned is
Mhm.
the creating a win-win equation for each and everyone. Interesting.
And so the other thing is, as I said, when I started my supply chain career, it was with Whirlpool. I had a very good set of processes and systems and tools, and I use that across my experience across the companies I worked for. Okay, they worked on Six Sigma tools. They worked on core procurement processes, strategic procurement processes, and I use those experiences across the companies I work for.
Mm, right. And I love the fact, and I'm firm believer of it, that no one is enemy, right? We all are doing our job within our situation and our boundaries, but yes, no one is the enemy. We all are friends, and
Mhm.
that's great. That's the reason you make a more relationship rather than just a professional talks,
Yeah.
right? Maybe the last question from my side, especially for the new era, the Gen Z or Gen Alpha we talk about, right, is what is the what is the your message for these young professionals who wants to build their career in sourcing and procurement, and where you find that they are going wrong?
So, number one, supreme is integrity. Okay. So, a procurement person gets the role. assuming that there'll be utmost integrity. So people, when they really try to pick up a role in procurement, they often, get seduced by the flowery world of the suppliers, wooing you all the time, so that is not the way procurement works, okay? And integrity becomes very, very core to the entire, career that is there. So a new guy can just fritter away one's career, anything goes wrong.
Mm,
So top of the list is integrity. Suppliers will woo you with all kinds of, good talk, yeah, it could be anything, okay?
yeah.
One has to be very careful about that engagement, okay, and how do you keep that arm's length, okay?
Mm,
Other thing important is, as I said, adopt new technologies, new processes, because procurement and supply chain is all processes, okay? So when a leader like me is setting up an organization, that sets up an organization just to ensure that you do the right buying, but there has to be certain guidelines, certain processes within which that you have to do. Okay. And then we top it up with very strong governance. Okay. So all these youngsters have to understand processes. So it is not only about going there and negotiating with suppliers.
mm,
There's the
mm,
last thing, the simplest thing to do, because you
yeah,
already have a position of power.
correct.
Okay. So the thing is understand processes. Now with all these AI tools and technologies coming up, as I said, pick them up, do a good job of that. Free up your time, but do not fritter away your time, that you have saved. Okay,
Mm,
it's a vast, vast area. You could be mastering commodities. You could be mastering foreign exchange. You could be mastering, you know, any commodity that is there. It's a very deep science behind it. How prices move, the demand supply situation, how do they determine the price. So all those things, can be time that you could utilize in learning. Okay, so utilize that time. Okay, and rest is, I think so. Be happy and utilize the supply chain best. Be business oriented. So many times procurement people are, question around their business understanding. So they should understand business first. Work like entrepreneurs.
mm,
Important. Okay. And if you do that, you'll be a good procurement person.
mm, right. And obviously the
Processes,
empathy.
tools, integrity, and deep understanding of commodities and whatever services that you work on.
Mm. It's a very important. I'm just writing few points here. That's the reason. But yes, I don't want to miss all these points for which you have mentioned. Mm. Right. So thank you, Vijay, for sharing all these information. Obviously, this is not just the word. These are your experience, your learning, which you are spreading right now also and mentoring a lot of people. Thank you so much for sharing your time and bringing those points which have and because of those the investment which you did of your time, your effort has really helped the India to grow to a next level where we, as you mentioned, the 5G rollout and the smoothness of the network. And obviously, there are a lot many things which you did in the manufacturing and other domain. Any last message which you want to share with us?
I say stay happy. I think so. I always say that organizations, people are bothered about organization politics and everything. I keep telling people, listen, again, you know, it is not that bad a world. Okay, each one has a space one of one's own. Okay, so please, work with the kind of simplicity that is required, and that is my message to everyone, that create less complex organizations. Okay, keep simple organizations with uh, clear focus on output, and you'll be happy. And, nothing more. I think so. I'm very happy working for so many organizations. I've had good times, bad times, but I look back with at least fond memories. Okay, and that is what.
Yeah, and that's make you a true leader because accept what is going on, and that make you agile as well.
So that is the way world works, and I'm happy that my reputation is there of someone who is not so complicated, and I'm very happy with that reputation.
Mm. And anyone who wants to connect with you, so what would be the right channel? Are you on LinkedIn
So
or?
I keep it very simple. You can call me up. You can mails not necessarily important, but you can call me up. You can message me. Okay, I'll call you back. Okay, so I'm happy to connect. And obviously, this phase of my career is all about sharing my experiences, perhaps teaching people the nuances of working through organizations, growing in organizations. So I'll be happy to share those. Maybe perhaps maybe set up an organization that could train people. Okay, in terms of how they navigate through organizations. And so one of the biggest things I've done in life is to work across so many beautiful companies. I really feel proud that having worked, companies like DLF, Whirlpool, Pepsi, HCL, Ericsson, Nokia in the portfolio. So all these great companies, and I'm happy to share my experiences. Mhm.
And these are really valuable experiences, insights, and the real challenges which we are facing still today. So you get a real guidance from Vijay how to steer and to how to move forward and how to handle you both from a professional point of view as well as from the personal point of view. Because
Like,
these obstructions, these rejections, these pressure break you internally.
so one more last message, and my some of my colleagues who work with me, or in a way work under me, they laugh at me whenever they see me in office beyond 6 o'clock. So I'd keep telling them that, listen, guys, I would be happy if you also do not sit in office beyond 6 o'clock. So if you work efficiently through the day, you don't need to stay overnight.
Beyond.
So spend some good happy family time also. And in case of urgency, obviously, you have ways of connecting from home also. Okay.
Mhm.
So I,
Mhm.
having handled a 24 by 7 plant and national supply chains, FMCG supply chains, and consumer durable supply chain, my time out of office was 5 to 6 o'clock.
Mm. Right. I understand. That's a very important. Yes. Uh, uh, do so in short, do whatever is required at that particular task. Don't make it a habit, but make it a balanced approach so that your family, professional and personal, both the life will stay
Yeah.
active and stay healthy.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Vijay, for
Thank you,
all
Deepak.
your insights, all your valuable messages, all the inspiration, and definitely, it's a great to connect with you after a long time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thanks for your time. So
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
to
you.
our audience, until next time, this is Deepak Vijay signing off. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.